Folks, we've got sitting in the studio here with us my good friend and great businessman and a guy who we're going to get some perspective on some interesting topics related to business and community and how they're connected. He's a good young IT professional. Charles Weems is coming back in with us on the other side of the break. You're here on 87.9 FM. I'm so sorry, the Globe. Andre, I got to get it together, man. You're on the Globe, and we'll be right back. Charles, we appreciate you being here, and we love this time that we're having with you to talk about what's been going on with black on black crime and how it impacts your business. Now, I know you do a lot of government contracting, so you're at the highest, your high level business stuff. But what does it look like, for you as a business person when you see these kinds of things going on in communities that you just said you came from? I mean, you went to Columbia High School, so what used to be considered kind of upscale east side, suburb of Decatur is now the hood. Mm-hmm. And you are old enough to have watched that decline happen literally before your eyes. So what is that like for you as a business person? What responsibility do you feel to do that? And how do, when you see something like the Black Lives Matter movement focus just more on police brutality, with all the killing that goes on in those communities, tell me how you process that?
Right. Well, just from a community standpoint, it's very. I don't get it. Even talking to young people these days, going back to the high school and doing all of that stuff, it's just a different mentality for these kids on just life, and I don't know where it started. I don't know this. It
seems like a resignation, a cynicism and resignation is already there.
Yeah,
that usually doesn't happen to someone until at least they're 30.
Yeah, it's crazy because they have this give me mentality. This everybody is a boss mentality. Making everybody makes all of this money mentality, and no respect for each other. And it's heartbreaking, and it's the only thing that I can compare it to is to the way we grew up. I'm a little younger than you guys, but I still had a sense of big mama, mm-hmm. and mama, and when I messed up, the whole neighborhood jumped down your throat.
Right.
We didn't play. If I'm up the street from the house and one of my neighbors see one of us get out of line, they get on us, and then we gonna tell your mama.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you got home, you got in trouble. Now,
and again, that was all without the internet.
Exactly, without the internet. Now, most people don't even know their neighbors.
Right.
That's and true. So,
I think that there is like an overlap, because what I notice too is that I think what we're discussing is what many people are calling like a millennial issue. Mm-hmm. And while I think that there are certain issues, obviously, that are specific to the African American community, mm-hmm. some of what you're saying is resonating with me when we're talking about, just the millennial generation. And I know that there are statistics that also show, the greater, that there are some studies that show that they're more willing to work collaboratively, but they seem to be completely possessive over their time and charging for their time, mm-hmm. and that there's no getting around that. Like, right. I'm not interning for free, and there are some differences, and some of those differences, as someone who works for myself, who might have, probably has been, for sure, taken advantage of several times. Maybe you've been in that same situation too, as an independent business owner, as a consultant, where you do find that you're kind of giving away your work sometimes. And most of the time it's in the hopes of it turning into more work down the road and kind of paying your dues in the beginning. But there does seem to be a movement of youth that doesn't really want to pay their dues in the beginning and does not expect to have to. And I was just having a conversation with someone who is really big into PR and in a specific field. And so a colleague of hers recommended a young person for this particular position, and she said, okay, yeah, send me your resume and a couple of examples of writing and and what you've done, blah blah blah. And the guy says, well, I don't have any experience, but I'm a really good worker and a fast learner, so I could do any of that.
I've had that happen.
And there seems to be I just find that to be jaw dropping. I would just not ever say that to somebody. I would just maybe write something for them.
What do
and
you
just
mean
say,
you would never say that to somebody? You said that to somebody.
When did I say that?
When you were 19 years old. You
When I came
didn't
to
have
you?
no paperwork when you showed up. You came in and said, hey, I heard y'all are doing some student stuff now. I want to get involved.
As a volunteer.
And then you never left.
I came in as a volunteer, not expecting to be paid and willing to do whatever entry level
position.
But that always gets the gig. That always gets the gig, though. Your enthusiasm and your refusal not to be a leading volunteer and force was evident, and so that's how you got to do that. You because you had that drive. But yeah, young people don't prepare. And certainly you would not have shown up for a formal job opportunity without the proper paperwork.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
I certainly didn't mean to say
and
that.
I've had that situation where I was trying to offer a young person an internship, and I pay. My internships are paid. And I told him, I know he was he was out his first year of college in computer science. And I met him, and I thought he was really cool. And I said, okay, you serious about this? He's like, yeah. And I said, well, all I need you to do is just send me a resume. I didn't bring up about a job or any. I already made up in my mind that I was going to offer him a spot. I just needed him to do a resume. He said he never done one before. I said, that's fine. I said, I'll give you, a week. You have the internet to look up how to do a resume. So just give me one. Just send me one. Send me one by Friday. Didn't send me one. I called the next week. I said, hey, I'm just calling, checking on you. What's going on? I'll get to it when I get to it. I said, oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, thank you. And I'll talk to you later, kind of thing. So it got back to him that, I was going to offer him a position, internship working with me. He called me and he was like, hey, Charles, hey, I just want to get back with you. I'm working on that resume. I said, no, it's too late. I said, no. That was simple. I was like, if you can't do this simple test.
He just failed the simple test of following your boss's instructions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And I don't get it. And I've experienced that, like 3 times now. But so to try and tackle that, which is one of the reasons why I participate in my high school, and so that they can see people like me that's not a rap star, or reality star, or in fashion, which I don't have anything against any of that. Don't get me wrong, but usually when I go to a senior class, and the first question I ask is, how many producers do we have in here? And it's like half of the class hand go up, and I always challenge them. I say, okay, now everybody's familiar with the Forbes magazine, right? How many producers are in the top 10? And they're like, none. I said, how many do IT that are in the top 10? It's like 6 or 7, that are billionaires.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, I don't have anything against any of that stuff, but, you may want to take a look at some other options because it's so saturated, and it's just the media has this false sense of all of this stuff. Like reality TV, I think, has just jacked us up socially because now you have more people acting out and cussing people out and shooting and doing all of this stuff because they see on TV that
They see all the confrontation on television.
Exactly. And so it's a lot to deal with, and
so in terms of, we've been talking about the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
Loveless brought up, that the fact that there is still a predominance of black on black crime.
Yep.
From a business person's point of view, when you and your peers are looking at that, besides peer-to-peer, what do you think are some of the best solutions? Well, and the other thing you said too is that you're still involved with your high school, and that it's probably good for the students to see you there, and just, it's not, being an athlete and a producer is not your only choice.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not your only option. Tell me about that, and what else can all of us be doing? What can we all be doing?
Mentoring. Simple. Mentoring. We don't have enough of people that will go back as and I use this word loosely, ratchet and all of this stuff as some young people are. They just need some guidance, really. They need somebody to talk to them. I wasn't that far away from, joining a gang and all of this stuff. I failed English in 8th grade, and no reasons why. I just was acting a fool, but I had somebody come and sit down and talk to me and kind of, give me a, just lay it out for me on what I was doing and what I would become, if I stayed on that path. I think that we don't do enough of sharing our personal experiences, the older generation, I would say, with the younger generation, to give them a sense of, yeah, I jacked up. I have messed up too. This is why. This is what I did. This is what you can probably do different, so you don't have to go through the same thing. My father has been locked up most of my life. He's out now, and we've been developing a relationship for a couple years now, but I didn't have that, at home. I see what jail does, right? And visiting my dad and all of that stuff. And so I made it a conscious decision. That's not going to be me, Yeah. And so, I think, mentoring is probably the biggest thing. The other thing is just being just honest with young people, because they see, like I said, they see this social representation of all of this negative stuff and think it's the way to go, right? And so in reality, they don't know, that all of this stuff, like what's the show, the Bad Girls Club? I'm just like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
I haven't even seen that, but yeah, it's I do feel like that the whole reality TV phenomena has dumbed down our country significantly, and that probably didn't need to take place in the first place. But there also seems to be, and I know even this is something that, white folks go through too, is that there seems to be a prolific anti-intelligence, like a prejudice against science and the facts, and an anti-intellectualism. And I've heard about that also in Black communities, where there seems to be pressure on kids to not be smart, or you're not cool if you're smart. Can you speak to that a little bit, and what we can do to change that?
Yeah, so I can speak from my own experience. I'm transparent. I played golf in high school. Now, growing up in a, Black neighborhood, if it wasn't basketball, baseball, football, come on, I got picked on a lot because I was a geek. I'd rather play video games and play on my computer and go play golf than, I could play basketball, but I didn't enjoy it. I only did it so that I could interact with other kids. But that's just pure, peer pressure growing up. It's in high school, it's all about being cool. And being smart is not one of those traits, because it's always associated to what I call the pocket protector with pens, right? Versus you can still be a great athlete and still be smart. There's nothing, it can coexist.
And it happens quite a bit, actually,
exactly.
when kids have after school activities, including sports. So that was another question for me too. how when you go back to your old high school, when they're taking out music classes, when they're taking out art classes, when there's no more PE, what are you seeing in schools that's different from now in terms of what's available to kids?
Well, is there's no outlet, for the kids to be creative and to. I played an instrument in high school. I know it sounds like I did a lot, but I played in band, and so that was I think they helped with my creativity. So not having the music, the art, the acting, drama, those kind of things, I think it's not only hurting the kids from a well-rounded perspective, right? But it doesn't allow them being in a structured classroom from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock, where you have to do this constantly for 8 hours, will kill anybody.
Yeah, that's like having a job.
Frustrated. Exactly. You get
that's
frustrated.
Like child labor.
You get frustrated, and so
it really is. Yeah. It really is. And so how do you turn the corner though and still be productive?
That's a good with a structure like that's a good question. I think that one thing that we've done with our high school with the band specifically is our music department had a little diminished from some situations that happened. And so what the alumni did, we all got together, we petitioned for some change, we got that change, and now the thing that they need most is money. So now what we do, the alumni, we set up a GoFundMe page, and I can't remember what the goal was, but we raised it in like 2 days.
Wow.
Right. That's
awesome.
That's the kind of, but I would say most people in the African American community, what it takes to make these changes is two things: time and money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And most times we don't want to give up either one, but but those two work together in order to really make changes in our community.
And why do you think that is? I mean, so many of us make it because of the institutions that nurtured us, but we don't want to go back and devote money or time to keep those institutions alive. So it's almost like we're saying to the kids coming behind us, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. Hopefully the system will keep it together for you. So I do salute that kind of stuff, because I know we had a guest yesterday call in, Kevin Chavis, from a former DC city councilor who's a big education advocate, and he talked about how to pick the right school for your child. Mm-hmm. And one of the main things he talked about in terms of parental opportunity was engaging the school that way. How can we support some changes? And here's some changes we want to see made. How to become a voice, a loud voice, an advocate for that kind of change and reform. Right. And we do know, Charles, based on the three things you talked about with the education, economics, and politics, education is where it begins. And so that, to me, is where we can also capture the imagination of young people in a way that can help us successfully redirect them away from the kinds of things that result in black-on-black crime statistics. Because in my mind, of whom much is given, much is required. And so business people, particularly black business people who have wherewithal to succeed, ought to be focused on how we can be on the front line and leading efforts in figuring out how to, and then doing so, to reduce black-on-black crime. Obviously, just when you go back to the wisdom of the old folks, the kind of people that raised us, there's too much idleness for these kids. There's too much opportunity for them to be sucked into
the vortex.
A vortex of hopelessness and cynicism, and they're surrounded by those influences, a lot of times coming from adults. I mean, Atlanta is known as an awful place for sex trafficking, for example. And so you have a lot of young women losing their innocence and hope in life young boys too, at very early ages, because of this sex trafficking stuff that these adults get. And so it seems to me like the more we can do as business people to get these kids redirected, that's what I'm hoping we can do.
One thing that really concerns me is kids being able to have a creative outlet when the way they learn does not conform to how schools structure learning. There's really got to be a way for every kid to be able to get the most out of education. And we discussed some answers about that with Kevin yesterday, but there's a story that I think we should talk about that happened in Texas about a kid inventing a clock and getting kicked out of school for it. And when we come back from the break, we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah, and we're gonna wrap up our conversation with Charles after the break as well. And the one thing we'll be able to point out to you with great certainty on this issue of the boy being arrested or handcuffed for a engineering prowess and this black on black crime and other stuff, it's not Obama's fault. So we'll get a chance to point that out too. On the other side of the break, you're right here on Call to Reason with Loveless and Beth, and you're on 87.9 FM.
The Globe.
And we're back right here on Call to Reason with Loveless and Beth. Got our main man Andre mixing the old school in.
You know what I do? I always try to do what I do when
mixing it in. And we're here wrapping it up with our very special guest, IT entrepreneur and youth success advocate, Charles Weems. Charles, do you get a chance to talk to young people very much?
I do. Actually, believe it or not, I do. Well, I do it in a couple ways. I'm very active at my church. He is in Stockbridge here, so I do a lot with our youth there. Since I moved back to Lithonia, which is in DeKalb County, since the band season has started or football season has started, I've been a little more active here when I'm here, when I'm in town.
So give us three things on the way out. Give entrepreneurs who are listening right now 3 things they can do to help redirect young people and therefore reduce black on black crime in America.
Okay, 1, mentoring. 2, mentoring. 3, mentoring. I don't think that there is enough representation of, the success stories or the other options. And I think, young people go to or gravitate to what they see, basically. They don't see doctors coming back to the school. They don't see lawyers. They don't see, politicians, right? They don't see, all they see is their teachers and their parents most of the time, and then what they see on TV. So being an entrepreneur, I think that it's on us if we want to see a change, because a lot of times we have time and we definitely have money to pour back into, our communities, wherever that may be. And like for me, going back to where it all started, never forgetting where you come from. And a lot of times we tend to do that. We, go to school, go to college, get these nice jobs, move out to the nice side of the, of the tracks, which is okay. I don't penalize anybody for doing that, but we generally lose that sense in our community. We lose that. My mom used to tell me back in the day, they would have a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, all of this stuff in their neighborhood that they could go to. The local grocery store was, locally owned. The produce and meats were grown, locally. That would supply the grocery store, right?
Mm-hmm. Locally sourced meat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't have that, So I can't emphasize mentoring enough. Giving that outlet of sharing experience, sharing opportunity, sharing finances, sharing time, to kind of change that mentality that's there at the core currently. So,
well, Charles, we appreciate having you
Thank you.
This was a great interview and gave us some really good perspective and things to think about that we can do. Because if we don't encourage these young people who are leading Black Lives Matter to focus on black crime, we will have failed a whole generation.
Yep. I totally agree. That's why, as I stated before, I'm very passionate about it. Look, any young people listening, you can find me at my website. Send me an email, www.weemsdesignstudio.com. I'm more than happy to share my thoughts, my resources, my knowledge, whatever I can to help. So
young people who are listening or parents who are wanting to steer your children into IT, just go to www.weemsdesignstudio.com and there'll be an email link there. You can reach out to Charles. Charles, thank you so much for being here with us today.
No problem.
And that was Charles Weems, ladies and gentlemen, of Weems Design Studio. He's a youth success advocate and overall good guy. We appreciate having him in today to talk about issues that matter to a lot of us. Beth, moving on as we get ready to say goodbye to everyone.
We've got a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break in about a minute. We're gonna take a break right now.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you, Andre's gonna teach me how to do this hosting thing one of these days. Y'all, will be right back. You're on 87.9. Call the Reason.